Okay, so one of the things we want to talk about is what makes our money grow from the 100 to the 259.37, from the 1250 to the 27,150, from the 1750 to the 1680. Okay, what does that, obviously, and you guys should know this, is interest rate. Is our interest rate, okay, or interest. We're going to talk about simple interest first, okay, and then we'll talk about compound interest. But the first thing is simple interest. This is where interest is not reinvested, okay, and this is very important. Interest is not, all right, reinvested. So what happens is you get your principal amount, you get interest on that. So if you put money in the bank at let's just jump in and do an example. So let's say you're going to invest $500, okay, at 10% interest for 8 years. Okay, our $500, that's what we call our principal amount. Okay, so for simple interest, we're going to take our $500, it's multiplied by our interest rate, and we know that's going to be $50. So that's our interest, $50 in interest. So what would happen here is, let's say this is January 1st, you put in your principal amount. At the end of the year, you have your interest here, $50 in interest, but let's say that $50 in interest goes into a certificate of a deposit or an IRA or whatever. It just doesn't go back into your account, right? So you do that for 8 years, okay? Obviously, that is 400. And then at the end of the 8 years, so you got at the end of the 8 years, you've had 400 in interest that went into one of your accounts. You have your principal amount, and we know that was 500. So at the end of the 8 years, you have 900 total. Okay, not too bad. All right, now let's talk about what happens with compound interest. Okay, with compound interest, the interest, okay, very important here, is, okay, reinvested. So you get interest on the principal and interest, okay? Now, this is what we talk about with our future value interest factor, future value equation. Future value equals present value times 1 plus r to the t, okay? And so if we use this example that we had, we would have $500 times 1.10 for 8 years, okay? Quite honestly, you know, and this is just me, but I don't like dealing with the exponents and things like that. I could put this on my timeline. Okay, I know I got 8 years. I'm going to draw 10% interest on my $500. That's my present value, and I want to know what is the future value of that money. Okay, so let's pull up our calculator. Again, brand new problem, so I want to clear everything out. So I'm going to do second, clear time value money. Okay, and I've got 8 years, 10% interest, and 500 negative is my present value, and I'm going to compute my future value. And I can see I get 1071.79. So 1071.79. 1071.79. Okay, had that right. I just didn't put it in there. Okay, 1071.79. So you can see with the compound interest. So if we subtract out, the simple interest had $900, right? So the compound interest gave me $171.79 more than with simple interest. All right, this is very important. This right here is the interest on the interest. Okay, so that first $10 that we would have gotten with our previous example, or the $50 in interest right there, we kept reinvesting that, and we reinvested that, and that gained interest, and it came out to $171. Folks, you know what you call that? You call that free money. You didn't do anything for it, you just had to invest. Okay. If you want to get a visual representation of that, take a look at figure 5.1 in your book, and what you can see there when you look at that blue area is your principal. The orange area is what you would get with your simple interest, and you can see the green is what happens with compound interest. You can see that green is growing much faster. All right, that green section there is what we call exponential growth. Okay, we obviously like exponential growth because as we leave that in there longer, that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, the simple interest is going to give us linear growth. Quite honestly, folks, you just want to stick with compound interest. All right, so make sure we stick with that. Compound interest is our friend, and as one of my friends puts it, the compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and we need to make sure we understand that.